Hello everyone, my name is Dalton Witt. I'm a Ashtabula County native, grew up in Jefferson. I am a recovered or recovering drug addict and alcoholic. I know it's a weird thing for people to hear. It's an even weirder thing for me to say out loud. I'm an addict, I'm a drug addict. I have a sponsor. I work a 12-step program. I am part of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the largest club on the face of the planet that no one wanted to be a member of. These are weird things for me to articulate and say out loud, but these are things that need to be talked about. I'm 39 years old. I have about a year and a half of sobriety. I'm someone who never attempted sobriety my entire life. I've been a functioning drug addict since 19 years old, 20 years old. I want to talk to you today about getting past the stigma of addiction or going to treatment or asking for help. We do what's called qualifying in this, which is I tell a little bit of my story in hopes that maybe it's something that you can relate to. So I grew up on a farm in Jefferson, South County here in Ashtabula County. Pretty normal family life growing up. Parents who loved me, siblings who loved me. I grew up in a house without alcohol, something I've never had experience with. The first time I remember being over friends' houses whose parents had social, alcohol or social drinks. I remember being taken aback because it's just something I had never experienced as a child in the house I grew up in. We can look to a lot of reasons why addiction happens. Globally, there's these doctors and guys that hold PhDs that share information now from country to country and region to region, say that they figure there's maybe 4 to 6 traumatic experiences that happen to an addict during their formative years, their early childhood, and that creates the brain disorder we now know as substance abuse disorder or addiction or alcoholism, whatever moniker or term you want to put on it. It's real. It's a progressive illness. And when I say that, I speak to my experience in addiction, which is a constant ramping up of substance abuse over the last 15 to 20 years of my life, and the constant or consistent lowering of the bar of standards on who I associate with, what my goals are in life as an adult or as a professional or my personal life. And those two things correlate at some point to make a perfect storm where you're given the gift of desperation if you're an addict of my sort, which is being homeless, living in my car here in Ashtabula County, living between oil wells, South County, gas stations by the highway so that way I could steal food and gas, survive at some level. So pretty typical upbringing. I would say 9th or 10th grade, I'm drinking and smoking pot on the regular. I know when we speak to some of the high school students about that, I like to bring that up. So let's all make no misgivings or delusions about what's really going on by 9th or 10th grade. And I'm a guy who academically is doing okay. I'm an athlete. I'm involved in our sports teams at Jefferson. I am involved in music, right? So I'm part of the choir. By all outside observation, I'm living the cookie cutter American childhood. I wouldn't say I'm a raging alcoholic. I never blacked out or forgot where I was or couldn't find my car keys, but I drank and smoked pot all through high school. My freshman year of college, those things got turned up a little bit. That's kind of a culturally accepted thing in our country. What we would call a rite of passage. It was almost expected of me to let my hair down and enjoy life during my time in college. I carried through a cocaine addiction, LSD, MDMA and ecstasy, and of course marijuana and alcohol all through college. Still graduated with a bachelor's degree from Bowling Green State University. I went on to a professional life. I've traveled internationally for work. I've worked for some big companies and some small companies. I've provided the whole time, usually abusing some type of drug and drinking. All right, so this illness or disease or affliction or again whatever name you want to put on it, whatever you're comfortable with saying if you need to talk to others, it affects all types, all races, people from different socioeconomic backgrounds. I would say I grew up middle class. I've experienced some professional success in my life, married, divorced, of course, through I would blame that on drug addiction, my divorce, family that loves me, and all of these things are never enough. So with a year and a half, roughly, year and 5 months sober, and analyzing this process, participating in Alcoholics Anonymous, Celebrate Recovery, which is faith-based, 12-step programs, and Narcotics Anonymous programs, I am sure of one simple thing, and that is that this is not an intellectual problem. I've analyzed every aspect of this, backstories on people, what they're doing now in recovery to help their situation, where people have gone forward or set up 5-year plans to move forward in the future, and I am positive it is not an intellectual issue. I've been trying to fill a hole in my soul. I would try to stuff with outside things, whether it's substance abuse or monetary things, stuff. The quicker that we understand as addicts or alcoholics that there's something different about our constitution as who we are as people, the quicker we can get on to asking for help. That's a hard thing to do. If you're someone who right now is struggling with substance abuse, I understand the isolation, the guilt, the shame. Those are factors that drove me away from people that could help me. There's a certain level of false pride in my using as well, where I didn't want to bother others with my moral affliction. And unfortunately, that's how people who suffer from substance abuse disorder are seen by people who don't have any personal experience with it, is that there is a moral issue, right? I have a moral deficit. I make bad choices. That's where the criminalization of addiction comes from in our legal system here in the United States and most other countries. But you can navigate that system with help. Whether you're a parent watching this or someone who suffers from substance abuse disorder yourself, I promise you, if you reach out to people in our county, whether it be people here at Signature Health or people at the Donahoe Center at Turning Point or people at Glen Bay or to go to an NA or an AA meeting, that would be Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous. All those things can be found online. It's very easy to Google that. You will be welcomed with open arms. Robert Downey Jr., the actor who plays Iron Man, has battled with substance abuse disorder most of his life. And when asked why he doesn't want to talk about it in interviews or with other people, he speaks on the fact that he feels that he's maybe a victim or a participant or a veteran of a war that he finds he can only speak about with other people that were there. And that's the best advice I can give someone who's battling addiction right now, is to get around other people who understand where you have been and where you are now. The door is always open from another fellow addict or alcoholic. All I can do is extend my hand to you, and I promise you anyone else will as well. If you're a parent or a wife or a husband or a sibling or just a friend who's concerned about someone who's struggling with addiction, reach out to these same groups I just spoke on. AA, NA, Glen Bay, Turning Point, Signature Health. We can help the family who doesn't understand addiction as well. And by that I mean we can answer some questions that you may have that you can't talk about with your loved one. We can also put you in contact with people that participate in Al-Anon, which is a 12-step program for people who have suffered some traumatic experiences by loving someone that struggles with an addiction problem. So with my year and a half of sobriety, it's not all rainbows and sunshine and candy canes every day. It's hard work. I can look another man in the eye today and speak from the heart. I've made friendships with other men and women who are in recovery from drug addiction or alcohol addiction that are lasting friendships today. I have people that I can rely on, people I can count on. I've been able to do what we should be able to do as Americans, which is to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. And if you're in the middle of battling addiction right now, that seems miles away. You might be looking at this screen right now and saying to yourself, Dalton, I'm not smiling. I've painted myself into a corner that I can't get out of. I am in a trap that I can't spring. I understand that. At the end of my using, quicksand stretched all around me. There was nothing left to claw at. And today, through sponsorship, through 90-day treatment program, and through working with others, I've been able to hold full-time employment, get back to some more career-oriented activities, and participate with my brothers and sisters that are in recovery on helping new people to learn that there is a better, easier, softer way, but it's going to require maybe going away for a little bit. I'm blessed in a sense that I have a family who loves me, who has always loved me and wants the best for me. In the end of my addiction, my battle with drugs and alcohol, I would dodge family events. I wasn't really welcome at my mother's house, in the sense that to watch me deteriorate was killing my family as well. I weighed about 100 pounds less than I do sitting here right now today. Looked like I was dying, because I was. Today, I can enjoy a working relationship with my mother, with my mother's husband, who's a great man, who's been involved in my life for years, and my two brothers and my sister. But really, I can participate in their lives, and that's really the truth of it. And if you're an addict or an alcoholic, you understand what I'm trying to say right now, is that the isolation that comes with this, I couldn't participate in their lives, to be around my nieces or nephews, right? Because of the embarrassment of what I was going through. I can do those things now today. And that's from looking for help, turning to the right people, getting involved in a 12-step program, working with others that are in recovery and still currently suffering from substance abuse. What was the end like for me? What got me into treatment, or what were those last few days in addiction like? And this is something important to talk to maybe parents or relatives or family or friends of loved ones that are suffering right now from drug abuse. It was very difficult for me to go to treatment. It took being arrested, it took 2 felonies, looking at someone who never had more than a traffic ticket up until a year and a half ago. After those things happening, I still wasn't gung-ho about going in treatment. I just didn't think it was for me. So what I'm trying to speak to you right now is, after prolonged substance abuse, your cognitive ability in your head becomes askew or awry. So 2 plus 2 does not equal 4 in my head at the end. I was given every chance to go to treatment by my family for probably a month, 6 weeks before I finally got arrested. Some people say I wasn't ready. I don't even know if that was it. I just don't really know if I knew what was going on at the time. I ended up overdosing in my car at Flying J parking lot where I was living. I was arrested by our Asheville County Sheriff's Department, thank God. So I had overdosed and I had fallen asleep at about 4 in the morning, or fallen out, or whatever hip term we want to use, and I had left my sunroof and my windows down, and it rained that night. The sheriffs were there every night. I was living there for about 3 weeks, and they would come and eat at the Denny's restaurant there every night about 3:30, 4 in the morning, and they never bothered me. And then that one night it decided to rain, and I had overdosed in my car and was getting rained down through my sunroof. And I was arrested and processed, taken to jail. The jail was full. I was taken back to my car by 5 a.m. So I speak to the fact that at that point you would think I'm ready to go. I went for about another 2.5 weeks after that. The whole time seeking help, going in front of judges, but the cognitive ability of an addict is so skewed at that point from hard drug abuse that if you would have put me on a polygraph or a lie detector test, I would have passed with flying colors saying I didn't need treatment. That's how skewed and confused our brains are. It's the $64,000 question. It's the elephant in the room. How do I convince a family member or a loved one to go to treatment? I don't know. Mine was literally having a brother come out, pull me back to my mother's house, and them icing me for 24 hours until I went to treatment. And I will tell you, as I'm walking in the door to treatment, with my mother crying and me telling her it would be okay, I knew in the back of my mind that once I slept a couple days, got a shower and a couple of things to eat, I was climbing out the window. Luckily, in treatment, I found other men that were going through the same thing I was, that I could finally talk about this experience with someone. I'm an advocate of 90-day treatment. I will tell you my personal experience, the experience of the men that I'm close with still to this day in my recovery family, is that I didn't have a straight thought for the first 30 days I was in treatment. I was ready to leave. I was just biding my time, and I was going to either walk out the door or climb out the window. I am an advocate of the 90-day treatment. I think we need some time isolated to ourselves to get away from the people that we're running with. And it's not to say they're bad people. The brain disorder of addiction, of substance abuse, puts you in a constant free fall of the lowering of the bar of standards, the lowering the bar of who you will associate with, the lowering the bar of lifestyle, and eventually we all find ourselves at the bottom. To give the perception that if you do this within a week or a month or a year, you're in jail and you're this atypical dirtbag that you see in a movie or a made-for-TV series, is false, and we shouldn't give kids that impression. This thing is progressive. It is protracted, it's measurable, where eventually it will become too much for, if you're like me, if you're an addict like me, it'll become too much for me to participate in the real world and achieve my goals and provide for my wife and my family. You'll end up in the same place I did, which was either jails, institutions, or death.